Zoom recording. All right, guys. So a couple things. First off, oh, I lost my video. Okay. Everybody can see my screen, right? All right. I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and pump through this real quick. So, a couple things. So, keepingcurrentmatters.com. If anybody has not gone to this website, I strongly suggest it. It is keepingmatters or keepingcurrentmatters.com. I will post that into the chat box, and I'll also add it into the comments after everything else is done. But let me post this out real quick. So, this is a keeping. So this is a really strong site that does, it's actually just determined by a economic guy that goes through and creates all these great stats. And he put out a really cool one the other day, because I think a lot of people's concern right now is, what is this going to do to the market right after and as everything starts to clear up? Are we going to push ourselves into a recession? Are we going to do something similar to what happened to the marketplace in 2008, 2007, in that range? And the answer is, this is apples to oranges in this equation. They are two different types of things. And that is what we really need to take into account as we're moving forward. Because if you do not, and if you do not explain this to your clients and realtors are actually the ones that usually deteriorate the marketplace. And the reason and the purpose that they do that is because they are misinformed. So if you take that few moments to actually figure out what is actually going on in the marketplace, then you can explain that to everybody else. Now, once again, I want to tell everybody again about this Prezi video, because I think this is a great tool that you can use right now in the marketplace to explain to your clients what is going on. And you can use some graphics that are really powerful that will show them actual numbers, rather than just you giving your information that you may be regurgitating. Instead, you're actually showing them some statistics that are proven and that are researched by other parties. Okay, so using in that terminology of when you write that book back in English class, you are giving your sources per se. All right, so the big part here, guys, is, like I said, this is not the same as 2007. I know Andrew, myself, and Nick have all talked about how bad it could have gotten and how bad it did get for some people in the marketplace. And this market is different for a couple reasons, and that's what I'm going to go over today. So the big one is that credit availability is different. And what that means is that the availability to give money out to people is a little different than it used to be. And what I mean by that is this. So as the market has changed and went dynamic, when you were in that housing bubble of 2007, 2008 time range, we had a lot of available credit. Everybody was giving out money. And because everybody was giving out money, we were not cautious with how that money was being given out. As you can tell, as the market has started to stabilize a little bit, we came down off of that availability, and we've kind of stayed pretty neutral toned in the amount of credit that is available. Now, what does that mean to all of you? Take into account that as the market is moving, it will move fluidly and it will move dynamically. Now, as you can tell, that was an upward shift, and it could have eventually spiked out. So right now we're kind of flatlining, but we were not in a bad situation where we'll have that large decline or that crash. Now, the other part of that equation comes down to the next part with what we've been forced to be more responsible because of appreciation rates. So you're not seeing the crazy appreciation that was going on during this market time. And because of that, that has helped out tremendously. So this is the annual home price appreciation for 6 years leading up till today. So as of 2000, we were seeing in the range of 8.5% to 9%. That scaled up to the peak at 12.5% in 2004, 2005. So we had seen a lot of appreciation happen, whereas the last 6 years of where we're at today has only scaled up at a moderate rate. In fact, at 6.4%, that's the lowest amount that would have happened in the previous 6 years to the original housing crash. So the market has had a more responsible method to move forward and to gain in appreciation. We're not having those massive spikes. And because we're not having those massive spikes, we are able to maintain this a little bit better. And as I mentioned, guys, all these graphs are in that email that came out from keepingcurrentmatters.com. And I will show you that website at the end of this call, because I want to show you that you can actually manipulate that email to be very personalized from you, and you can share that out with your clients if you don't feel comfortable by just taking the content and creating your own video. Now, next part, guys, is what are our markets better suited for, okay? Now, what that means is basically here. So today, months of inventory in 2007 was sitting at about 8.5 months or 8.2 months of inventory overall in the marketplace. Today, we are sitting at about 3.1 months of inventory, and this is at a nationwide level. El Paso was about the same, about 3.5 to 4 months. Las Cruces, last I checked, is actually sitting at about 3.5 months. So basically, we are in the market dynamic where the market is more secure because we don't have tons of inventory. And because we don't have tons of inventory, there's not a lot of stuff to just sit there on the market and depress the value. This is where I was mentioning earlier that realtors can really destroy the marketplace by encouraging their clients to put everything on the market and scaring them with tactics that say things like, you need to sell today, rather than just having an honest conversation with them and talk to them about why today is a good time to put the house on the market, but also a good time to buy a house as well. Interest rates are really great right now. The 15-year rate, we just saw one lock in at 2.675% interest on a 15-year note. That is a crazy rate, but it is good because he's going to also sell his house and he's purchasing another upgraded home. So it's still keeping the market dynamic and fluid, but at the same time, we're not getting a lot of people in a scare tactic to try and jump their house on the market ASAP. And the conversation we've been having is the same, is that if you're being responsible about it, that it is a good time to sell, but don't also fire sell as well, because what happens is as you start to see additional inventory, the people that have been on market for a long period of time start to cut their prices and slash. And what happens is that actually deteriorates the entire market because people can't get out of their homes at the right price bracket. Now, the other item is that yes, inventory is really nice and clean right now. We are in what you would consider either a buyer's market or a seller's market, depending on what you're looking at, if you're trying to buy or if you're trying to sell. But it's being responsible about using that inventory correctly. And that's where this next one comes into play. So interest rates right now are going to have some impact on the marketplace, okay? But the other part is that the percent of median income needed to purchase a median priced home. Now, what that means very simply is that because interest rates have come down, you can stretch your money at a longer point. And we've had this graph come up a couple times where if you bought the same $350,000 house in 1980, and you bought that same house today, your cost to buy that home would be substantially less today than it would have been in 1980. Now, why is that? Is because of the interest rate. So even, let's use it for instance. So interest rates on that 15-year mortgage went from 2.975 down to 2.675 from Wednesday of last week till Friday of last week, and they're the same this morning. So because of that, the person that is looking at buying a house, so it'll be approximately a $400,000 mortgage or $380,000 mortgage. If that person buys that $380,000 mortgage, if he had bought it on Wednesday, he would be paying $80 more per month than he would if he purchased it today. And the reason that is because that difference of small point between 2.975 and 2.675 interest rate, that small change can mean $80 to $90 per month that he would be paying extra. Over the course of those 15 years, that is going to equate to almost $14,000 or $15,000 in additional expense that he will put out there. So the point is that because interest rates are so phenomenal right now, there's actually the better route that people can buy a house with less money to be coming in as income. Okay, now the next part. Now this one is probably one of the more impactful points, is that people are being more responsible with their money right now. And that is a key to make sure that the market is stabilized. Now, what I mean by that is home equity cashed out. So because of those massive equity increase by home appreciation, okay, so if I go back to this one, if in that, home appreciation rates were outrageous, right? So people were taking that money out and using it to get into home equity lines of credit. And because they were using home equity lines of credit, they were massively taking this money out of the marketplace, okay? In 2005, $263 billion was pulled out through refinance and used for home equity cash out. Now, fast forward to 2017 through 2019, 2018 being the biggest at $87 billion. So you're talking 1/3 per year being used out in credit basis to equate, or over a total basis of the previous 3 years, we had $824 billion taken out, whereas today we're looking at about $232 billion. Now, what does this mean to the marketplace? It's being that the people are being more responsible about their equity. They're not running to the, running and buying out that second home, running out and buying that vacation property, using that money for massive upgrades into the property. They're not boosting their equity as much, and therefore they're not pulling that equity out as much. And because of that, it has a more responsible method in play right now. Now, why am I showing you all this is, guys, because I want you to do a couple things. I want you to really start paying attention to a lot of those emails that come out to you. Listen to the free content. Don't necessarily jump into paid content, because right now we're in a conservative mode and we're trying to just be responsive to the things that are going out there. But you can use this data. For instance, all these slides was a simple email that I received from keepingcurrentmatters.com. Now, as I said, we're going to go through that real quick. So give me a second. I'm going to share this screen. Okay, so everybody can see my screen real quick. Basically, guys, what we have, I just have to move some stuff here, is this keepingcurrentmatters.com. So this came through on an email, okay? And basically, it's keepingcurrentmatters.com. The email was just a newsletter, just like that. And if you notice, the way that keepingcurrentmatters.com does is they actually create some really good infographics, and then they allow you to extrapolate that infographics and create content of your own. So what I did is simply grab the video or the email that came through. I went to their webpage. From there, I open up the images, and you'll notice they actually bring up the images. I right-click and I save the image as, and then you can go through each of the images that were available, the ones that I just showed you. Okay, so as you go through this process, you can download these images and create the content based on what they have already written. So they actually talk about the things that you are going to be wanting to talk about in your video content or even in your email content, and then they created some really cool graphics to complement that. Now, you could simply just take this content and share it out with your clients if you wanted to do it that way too. And if you'll notice at the top of here, it allows you to say, did you know that you can personalize this version of this post? If you click on learn more, it opens up into a page that you can subscribe. They give you, I believe, 20 or 30 days free. So you can use that while we're in this process of having to give content out to clients, but not necessarily wanting to spend any money. You can go through that free trial and you can go through and add that content. Or you can go back through their previous content and grab some of that data as well and create free marketing dollar out to the marketplace. Now, as I mentioned, that is right now with the video that I'm doing right now, I am using what's called Prezi Video. And I mentioned this to you guys a while back, but Prezi Video allows me to put content up here on the screen. And if you hold on one second, I'm going to take my share screen off. So it allows me to take and add content here and allows me to move through that content pretty easily. So I can jump back from graphic to graphic. I can also jump into the graphic so you see it in full screen method, okay? But it allows me to be very responsive in what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And because of that, you can give real good information out to your clients right now through video emails. As I mentioned, you can record this email and you can send it out through a service called Loom. I did some training on that a couple days ago. So Loom is a free service to create video content to email out to your client database, and or you can actually just post it onto social media. So you can do a bunch of resources, guys, but there's so much data out there right now and so many scare tactics going out there. If you give them a sense of, hey, it's going to be okay. And that's why I like the content that came through today, and basically saying, guys, hey, listen, the market is actually in a good place right now if we pay attention to things like this. So understanding that there are different ways to share that data is going to be powerful for you, and also be powerful for your client to maintain with you. Now, there was an Inman article that came out today, and basically it walked over what can you be doing right now to prepare for if a recession does come into play. Now, as we just talked about, if I went through this data and showed you and showed the client, then we would basically show people that the recession may be not happen as severe as 2007, 2008. So you could give some sense of, positive nature on that. But at the same time, how do you communicate with your clients? And the article went really well into this. And as I mentioned, this is on Inman.com. You can go in, and it's a new article that just came out. It's an opinion piece, but it basically goes through a bunch of agents, a bunch of team leaders, and a bunch of brokers, what they are planning to do as this process is happening. So what some of those main points are things like get in contact with your database. Make sure you maintain contact with anybody that may be under contract. Make sure that you are giving relevant content out. Okay, so I heard this morning that they're doing a lot of people are doing a great post about decluttering the house, giving 30-day timeline to go through each room of your house and do that. That's a great social media post that you can stay relevant in front of your clientele, and you can create some really cool infographics to do so. So using the right tools is beneficial. The beautiful thing about infographics right now is that there is a ton of them. There is a lot of data out there, and people are using this time to create more and more data. Therefore, if you use it respectfully and you use it correctly, you can add some real content to the mix. Norma had a question. Norma says she uses Keeping Current Matters regularly. So guys, this is a powerful one because they do give you some really good content, and they send you an email, I think once a week. And it's really powerful information. But remember, the information that I just showed you has no relevance unless you give it some context, because a lot of people don't want to listen or read through the context. They just want to see the images, right? So if you bring some information based on video content, that's going to be even more powerful. And that's the last thing I wanted to share with you guys today, is that how do we do that in everything? Okay, so as I mentioned, I am using what's called Prezi, okay, and that's Prezi. And Prezi has a lot of opportunities that it brings to relevance. And you can create videos, presentations, or libraries. You can take your presentations and convert them into what I'm doing right now, where you can put the content on the right side of the video, and you can create some real dynamic content very easily in the marketplace. So this is a great way to create content, and you can practice and run through it a couple times. And that way you get some practice runs, if you will. You record that content and then you put it out there. Now I'm using it live through Zoom, but you can do a recorded version as well, and then just post it up. There is one caveat to the recorded version. It only records for 15 minutes, which is good because you don't want to go over 15 minutes anyways. 4 or 5 minutes tops is pretty much more than enough that you could have. Now, questions on that, guys? Does anybody have any questions that I can maybe answer that right now might give them a little semblance of how to use this content?
I got one, Brian.
Yep.
Your hardware is insanely good. How much do people need to be able to pull this off and make it work?
So the answer is, on this content, I'm not using any hardware except for I just have an upgraded camera right now. But other than that, all I have is a headset that you get with an iPhone. I have it plugged into my computer, and I'm using a upgraded camera. But if I switch that camera, instead of being my upgraded camera, I could turn that. And the only thing is the resolution would come a little different. So I'm right now using an HD upgraded camera. But if I went back to, I don't even know if you'll notice the difference. If I went back to my my computer camera, if you'll notice, just you see the difference. Nothing major.
Yeah, just a little bit grainier and a little bit darker.
Yeah, so nothing crazy as far as that. So I'm just that's the only thing that I'm using as an upgrade, is that I'm using an HD camera. You can buy one of these for about 25 bucks. And it's a Logitech 1080p camera, nothing substantial. And like I said, right now I'm just using simple iPhone hookup, setup, nothing crazy. And I'm just using my iPad. You could also be using just a normal desktop computer as well. So nothing crazy on that. Setup is very simple. So don't go crazy. You can use all the stuff that you already have and not spend any additional money. Cool. Other questions, guys? And by the way, Prezi is a free service for most of their options. If you want to get into some of the higher ended stuff, they might charge you. I think I pay $14 a month. And I think I paid it over the course of a year and got a small discount on that. So I think I pay like 10 bucks a month. But for me, it gives me a few extra features, but most people probably wouldn't even use that. As I mentioned, just using the data that I have right here, I'm going to send this presentation out so you can actually just get in, log in, use that presentation, and then you just put your video content and it would just be over here just like that. So it would be sitting over here. So, other questions? Can you use the video in Zoom on the free version? I am pretty sure, yes, you can. So to share that, guys, I'm going to show you what my screen looks like right now. Let me share my desktop here. So the only thing you really can't do with without having a premium version is, like, I have this live on Facebook as well as here. But if you'll notice my screen, do you guys see my entire screen? Yeah. So my screen has a couple of things open right now. So I have my Prezi video, which allows me to move through the presentation. Okay. So while I'm talking, I'm pressing the button and moving through the presentation. But other than that, if you'll notice this little button right here that says connected to Zoom. So on Zoom, if I open that app up, or actually if I close this and I just go down to my video, if you'll notice, I have 3 cameras available. I have my HD Pro webcam, which is what I mentioned. So if you guys want to write that down, it's an HD Pro webcam by Logi. I have my Prezi video camera, okay, which is this basically flowing into Zoom. And then I have my my FaceTime camera. So the answer is it's all built into Zoom, and I believe you can do all of that with the free account. So yeah, the answer to your question, I believe, is yes. There's only a few things that you get additional upgrades with whenever you move over into a paid account. You can put everything on Facebook Live. You can record it to the cloud. You can have a little bit longer timeline, so instead of that 40-minute delay. But most people aren't going to go over 40 minutes. So I would say stay with the free version until you absolutely feel a need to move over to a paid version. Cool. Any other questions, guys? No? Guys, like I said, don't overthink the process. This is a very simple setup. In fact, I showed Brenda how to do this the other day, and she had fun with it and put me in the image so I could join one of the Zoom meetings. So it is actually pretty responsive, pretty easy. So don't overthink it. It's actually very easy to put together. And I will share out the link to this actual presentation, so you can actually just basically duplicate it without going too crazy on it. So does anybody have any other questions? And feel free, you can also reach out to me, you know, if you have any specific questions that maybe you don't want to ask in a public forum. But anybody have any other successes they'd like to share? I mean, guys, I'll be honest, we're having a lot of good success right now. I think because all the agents are retracting and not maybe going and doing some of the things that the market needs, we are seeing a lot of movement. We have 3 listings that we put on market and weren't even on market for a day and went under contract. We just contracted a $450,000 property using virtual techniques. So, I mean, there's a lot of things out there right now that you can be very beneficial, and learning how to use this technology now is going to be beneficial for the future as well as the market starts to stabilize. Remember, there's going to be a lot of this social distancing probably for the next 6 to 8 months. So if you are in tune with it today, you're going to have a benefit in the future. So, and I'll be honest, people are striving for content that's positive right now. People are just so negative that they want to hear something positive. So really getting out there and putting out some positive content. They've been talking about how what is the name of the program? The music program. No, that you've been downloading. It's biggest downloads right now. What is the name
TikTok?
of it? TikTok. TikTok is the second most downloaded program out there. Why? Because the first is Zoom. Okay, so that's a good thing to learn Zoom. But the second most downloaded program on iPhones right now is TikTok, because people want to see good content. They want to see fun things. They don't want to see negative content. Don't give negative content. Be positive. Stay positive, because people are they're craving it right now. So give them some positive content. I'm sure Nick is working on his TikTok methodology right now, so that I can see it in his mind. Guys, any other questions right now? We're at about 30 minutes right now, so we'll probably cut this in a minute or so. But anybody have anything that they have questions on? Keep in mind, guys, this is actually really not difficult. As Andrew mentioned, I have a lot of technical equipment, but right now I'm simply using a computer, a pair of headphones just to keep our audio a little cleaner. And in this case, I'm using a little bit of an upgraded camera, but you don't need that. You can just use your FaceTime camera. So anybody else have any other questions that they'd like to ask? Norma, I know you use keepingcurrentmatters.com. Any positive nature you've ever gotten from it, or information that you'd like to share on that? All right. Well, I'm sure Norma has a lot of good information.
Brian, this was really good today. Thank you.
No, I was sorry, I was having trouble unmuting my microphone. But no, I use it, and what I use it for is I post, so I combine it with the DVTR, I believe that's the name of the other platform. So DVTR will go ahead and take the content from Keeping Current Matters and post it on social media for me. So, but one of the things that I've gotten good response is the content that's in there from some of my clients that I forward this information to. So I pay for it because it for me, it's a lot easier that way, because they do everything for me.
And I believe their cost is about $14 a month or something like that.
Well, the one that I use is $25 a month,
Okay.
only because it does a little bit more than the just the basic.
Okay.
So, but I've totally gotten my money back on the investment. I really like this platform.
Guys, and keep in mind, like I said, using a Prezi video content, or even just using a Zoom call to record your content, where you have a small bubble on the right or left or top or bottom, wherever you put it, and then having the content rotating on the screen behind you. Like I said, read through Inman articles, give positive content, be that interpretation of some of this content, because I think it is very valuable to give your clients something of value right now, and to show. People they're shying away from Zillow. They're shying away from all these other platforms, and they are striving to find people that are positive, one, and two, that are willing to give that information out that is very proactive to the marketplace. So, cool. Guys, if you have any other questions, like I said, I have no problem getting on a private Zoom call with you. I will strongly suggest that you do have a Zoom account, and that is one that is paramount right now. I went through 2 contracts over the weekend with a Zoom account and the client on the other side. Very powerful stuff. It allows me to go back to my roots of going through the contract line item by line item, which feels way more comfortable for me, because I worry that using Dotloop and all these other resources, people are almost afraid to ask questions because they don't want to sound silly, and therefore they're just signing the contract without necessarily knowing what's in it. So if you take that time and walk them through a Zoom call, with the contract, they can do that on their phone, they can do that on their computer, and vice versa. You can do that on your phone or your computer, and making it really resourceful to walk through a contract nice and crisp and clean. So make sure you have a Zoom account. Make sure you're using that Zoom account. We're actually testing out our first closing tomorrow. Since the title companies are restricting agents from going to closings, we're going to use our first Zoom closing with our client and the title officer so we can walk through and go through the document as we're closing.
Brian, I just did a 4-day class with Jack Shaheen, Sheenan, and through Zoom, and it was great because I didn't have to travel to New Mexico. Yep. And so I feel very comfortable doing something through Zoom.
Now, secret, okay, and I'm telling you the secrets of the backside of Zoom. If they pay for a premium service, you can tell. So Zoom uses tracking of eyes, and if you're out of focus because you're not paying attention to the screen, it pops up with a little alert that tells me that you're not paying attention. So just so you're all aware, there are some backside stuff of Zoom that the premium subscribers do receive. So just make sure that you, especially if you're doing classes, especially because they do require certain stuff, that if they call you out, they're calling you out because maybe they've identified that you're not paying attention to the screen. So even when you turn off your camera, it still will notify if you're still seeing some action on the screen. So just a few details that you do want to know about Zoom, that it is built for employers, not necessarily employees. It's just a great way to connect with employees so everybody understands that Zoom has some features in it. And remind your children, I told my kids, I said, even if you turn off your camera, they still know if you're at the computer, if you're still interacting with the computer, or if you're searching other sites. So just be cautious. Make sure your kids know that as well. I don't think a lot of teachers will pay for the premium service, but I just want to make sure that that's been relayed out to all of you that may have your kids be jumping on Zoom calls this morning, that Zoom is a program that is designed for productive environments. So just so you're aware, okay? Cool. Anybody else got anything? All right, guys. Well, listen, I appreciate you jumping on. Let's be real productive during this time. I will try and keep good content coming out. Andrew will have his Tea with Andrew on Wednesday. We will have meeting on Friday. If you guys need anything or have any concerns, let us know. Be safe. Wash your hands. Be responsible. If you're coughing, if you're not feeling good, stay home. Don't, and the same thing goes for your clients. And as you can tell, haircuts are a little difficult and out of demand. So I'm going to see how tall this can get. So we're going to go for that. Okay. Yes. All right, guys. Hey, have a great day. If anybody needs anything, please don't hesitate. Thank you for joining and have a fantastic rest of the day, guys.